And today we're talking about, oh man, it's always so weird. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right, spooky cartoons. Now, who do I have with me today? Let's see that other camera. Oh, wait. It's just me on this one. So, yeah, I had Cameron. Cameron had something he was doing. And the other host I was going to have on, if you guys remember Noah from my Lords in the New Church video that I did. Man, that's a good video, by the way. One of my favorite GothCast related things was Noah on that episode. He's a menace. And so Cameron canceled for this one, so it's basically going to be more of a hangout today for this episode. I still got a structure, but if you guys actually listen to the Cure review I did recently, whereas the Cure's new album, Songs of Lost World, there we go. I had to think about it for a second. It's going to be kind of like that. It's going to be me. Of course, we have everybody here in the chat. I see you all there commenting on the stuff. Vanessa and I talking about Nightmare Before Christmas. Dizzy D 1693 says, good evening, doctor. That's right. I just had to say that because that sounds so cool. Yvonne Peters, excited for this because it's a lot of good spooky cartoons. A lot of good stuff going on here. Christine McKay, I don't know, is that how you say that? McKee? Sounds good, but it is sounding good. That's good to know that it sounded good out there. Well, so maybe saying to yourself, spooky cartoons, what are we talking about here, Dr. Sanders? What are spooky cartoons? What are you going to be talking about? I'm lost. That might be what you're saying right now. Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be guiding you through this breakdown. By the way, it actually is kind of nice that camera's in here because I get to use this microphone stand and lean back in this chair. It is actually super comfy, but last week I was kind of like, the layout was a little different. But I'm going to go through a list of some of my favorite spooky cartoons. These are mostly going to be American cartoons, like they made for American properties. I'm not going to really go into anime unless the conversation steers me that way. There's so many good, like Halloween or spooky or horror themed anime that it could be its own thing for sure. So, not saying that some Japanese companies didn't work on the animation for some of these, because a lot of American animation uses Japanese companies, but that's not what this one's about. This is mostly supposed to be like American-based spooky cartoons, series, specials, talk about a few movies and stuff that we got going on in there. But I guess I'm just going to go into it. Talk about some of the earliest stuff that I really enjoy. All the early Mickey Mouse, Disney, and Looney Tunes stuff. So there's a whole bunch of these. There was never really like a good movie, I would say, for any of these. I know that there are two Haunted Mansion Disney films, but one of my favorite I wanted to mention here as far as the cartoons is called Lonesome Ghosts. This is from 1937. Okay, that's great. 1937. Like, think about 37, right? In 12 years, that'd be 100 years ago. But it's one of the Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy cartoons where they're like Ghostbusters. It's like literally like going to a house to catch ghosts. It's pretty cool. Along with all the early Looney Tunes stuff. I like all that kind of crazy, violent, well, maybe not. That's not the only reason. But, it was really insane, some of those cartoons back in the day with like Transylvania 65000 where Bugs Bunny goes to a haunted house and all those early ones. But they are kind of split up, right? They didn't ever just do a series that was just kind of Halloween themed or anything like that. When you combine them all, it's cool because you get like the Donald Duck one. There's one where his nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, are trick-or-treating, and he makes them smoke cigars as punishment. And it's really kind of a look into the time with some of those when you say the plots out loud. But one of the first ones I want to talk about here, I'm going to talk about some of the ones I have on my table here, and we'll kind of go back and forth. One of the ones I want to talk about, because the subject this week was going to be Tim Burton. That was going to be the subject today with Cameron, but Cameron's not here. So I pivoted to this one. It's kind of a spur of the moment thing. But I did want to talk about the Beetlejuice cartoon. The Beetlejuice cartoon. This is the DVD of that. Let's see. There we go. There we go. See the Beetlejuice cartoon. Cool stripes. There he is being a jester. See how amazing. If you just listen to the audio of this, I'm actually holding up the DVDs right now. And this has like a ton of episodes. But this was made in late 1989 and ran for quite a few years. Let's see if I have it listed here. Probably don't. Let's see. Beetlejuice. Well, it started in 1989. So this cartoon is right up my alley. In fact, I used to watch this all the time growing up. And I think for a while there, I think it was kind of underrated because, like, people seem to remember the movie, and people were asking for a sequel for Beetlejuice called, Beetlejuice, that eventually did come out last year. And that movie's pretty good. But the cartoon really helped expand the world of Beetlejuice. There wasn't like a continuation in any other way besides this show. And this show is long. I mean, I think it's like 4 seasons or something. It was like 94 episodes. Now, some of the episodes are split up into like, short segments, like 11 minutes and 11 minutes. Like the episodes aren't like super long. But I really think that this show was underrated for a while. Now, with the, how do I want to describe it? The expansion of awareness of Beetlejuice in the last year or so, due to them releasing the new movie and everything, maybe not as underrated because it is, Beetlejuice is now made like $1 bajillion in marketing, advertising, and stuff in the last couple months. But the show is really good for what it is. Now, this is not going to be to everyone's taste. This thing is basically puns the show. That's basically what this is. It's just Beetlejuice making puns and turning into things for that pun. I'll turn it that way if you want it. I don't know how much variety you guys want in the camera angles. But this show is such a dad joke show because I would say every other line Beetlejuice is saying some kind of dumb joke. And to me, that's amazing. I love it. like the dumber the humor, that kind of humor, especially that kind of stuff, it just appeals to me. But yeah, it recontextualized the show. In case you guys haven't seen this, it is a very old show, so I don't know how many people have actually seen this one, but it does recontextualize the movie as where Lydia and Beetlejuice are friends, and they're that kind of thing where they're not like enemies anymore or anything. That they don't really say the events of the movie happen, so it's kind of its own thing. Yvonne says that there's a black and white cartoon with dancing skeletons. I think that's actually called The Skeleton Frolic. That's a great one. Oh yeah, Betty Boop does have some Halloween stuff in there too. I'm a big nerd for animation, in case you guys haven't noticed so far on this. But yeah, this one, I really recommend it. Now, I think this is somewhat still available. I feel like they reissue this a lot, so you can take a look at it. There's also a show, just as far as we're talking about Tim Burton stuff. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I researched for the Tim Burton episode, but then we didn't end up doing it. There's a show called Family Dog, right? And this show is supposed to be like a response to The Simpsons, like a little more adult. Tim Burton worked on that show, and he designed a dog for the show, and that dog looks mysteriously like the dog from Frankenweenie when they did the Frankenweenie from 2014. Thought I'd mention that. That's a cool piece of trivia for that one. And then also, the Batman the Animated Series, the one from the 90s? That show is amazing as well. And that show was basically made as a response to when Tim Burton made the 1980s Batman film, because they were like, well, this tone and this stuff is all crazy, and I think we can market this. So, yeah, thought you guys might find that interesting. But yeah, the Batman show, actually, I don't have that up here, but the 90s Batman anime show, oh, I was watching it recently. So good. Some of the storylines are so dark, but like in a good way. Like, I mean, they really, for the kind of show that it is, it's kind of as good as you can get as far as the writing. So, Beetlejuice, I recommend it. All right, what else we got here? Now, here's one you think would be great. Okay, here's what we got. The Addams Family, right? It's very yellow. The Addams Family. We can swap the other camera if you want. The Addams Family, right? See the angle? I'm going to switch it every angle, I guess. This particular show. So you have the Addams Family from the 60s, right? The 60s television show, which is the one that, most of the memes are from, I guess, if you had to say a show. Great show. Very well written. It's funny. For the 60s, it's pretty basic, but for a show from the 60s, great. Okay. This is a cartoon from the 70s. I think it's 74. This show is terrible. It's horrible. I hate it. I did a review on it like a million years ago. It's still terrible. In fact, it might even be worse than what I gave it credit for. It's boring. The animation's terrible. Oh, man. Anyway. That was kind of a rant right there. But yes, this show from the 70s, I don't really like it that much. I don't know what they were thinking with this. It's made by Hanna-Barbera, who made Scooby-Doo and all those other cartoons like that. I'm telling you, if you got to watch an Addams Family cartoon, don't make it this one. Make it, I don't have the physical media of it. 1992, there was an Addams Family cartoon that came out. That one is great. That one is like kind of like the Nickelodeon type cartoons. Good animation. Well, as far as cartoons go. But that one's great. This 70s one, and a lot of 70s cartoons are really weird anyway. Just like 70s horror movies, You look at 70s horror movies compared to 80s horror movies. 80s horror movies tend to be so much more instantaneously engaging, like a lot of the slasher movies and stuff, because they kind of figured out and that they're a little more faster paced. They figured it out a little more. You look at like 70s horror movies, which I love in their own way. It's going to be a little more, maybe sometimes experimental, a little more just creepy for the sake of being creepy, like written more heavily like a drama. You look at like The Exorcist compared to like Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Like pacing, story writing and stuff is different, especially if they're appealing to a teenager or slightly younger crowd, which a lot of horror movies and stuff do appeal to that kind of crowd. What I'm trying to say here is don't watch the 1970s Addams Family. Watch the 90s Addams Family cartoon show. Boy, that was confusing. Oh, there's a link here. Man, I'm just running through these. Let me know if I'm going too fast or you have any questions about these. Or throw in your own favorite cartoons here if you'd like. Try and mention what I can, or at least if I have any knowledge about it. I see that Dizzy D 1693 mentioned Billy and Mandy and Courage the Cowardly Dog. Billy and Mandy, of course, great show. I never really thought about how insane that show was until later. There was like a thing that broke down just like one sentence to describe that show. And yeah, it's pretty out there show. And plus it's got that like that sort of like late 90s, early 2000s sort of gross factor of it, where like there are like brains and disgusting things in it, like Ren and Stimpy. Like there's a lot of that in Billy and Mandy, more so than I remember. But man, they really, I always like it in shows whenever they go to like the other world, right? They have like a dark world or something like that. I always love that. I tend to be like, that's the cool part of it, right? Like, yeah, the part where it's in a house and everything, that's cool, but it's like, oh, they go to this evil realm. That's cool, where all the monsters live. It's like, how do I live there, right? Beetlejuice has that, the Neither world. Billy and Mandy has that. There's like a lot of shows that do that, and I really always thought, like, when I was growing up, that was the coolest thing. So, yeah, but Courage the Cowardly Dog, that's straight up nightmare fuel. If you've never seen Courage the Cowardly Dog, that show, I remember being really creeped out by it. I mean, and then you watch it today, it's still creepy. Man, they got some really, those guys are like masters of making stuff that can just horrify you and stick in your head. Like most of the characters I can remember in that show, which I think says a lot to their designs and writing of really creepy stuff. So, I don't know if they brought that back or not. I don't remember if they brought Courage the Cowardly Dog back. But man, that show is really creepy. The guy who's like the shaver guy, the turnback, or whatever that guy is. Return the slab. Return the slab. That guy. There's that weird banana episode where it's like a giant godlike banana society thing. I mean, man, what am I even saying right now? Anyway, don't watch this, but watch the other one. That's it. There's no more spooky cartoons. Oh, wait a second. Oh, actually, we can do one of my favorites. Okay, well, I'm gonna do one that everybody knows, and then I'm gonna go to one that some people don't know. So speaking of Addams Family, in the 70s when they made this show, let's hit it there. Now we're moving on to Scooby-Doo. See, I'm segmenting here, right? This is crazy. So, that's looking like a mess on this desk. So, Addams Family from the 70s, right? This was already a cartoon show. The Addams Family 70s one. You may be thinking, that's crazy. I'd never watch that. But what if there was a Scooby-Doo episode that had the same versions of the Addams Family in it? Well, guess what? There was. There was. There was a crossover between the 70s animated Addams Family and Scooby-Doo. And this one ended up being really, really crazy good show. I mean, well, of course, Scooby-Doo. 60s. We're talking about the 60s here. And it's weird to think that Scooby-Doo is in the 60s, by the way. That's a really weird one. But Scooby-Doo, made by Hanna-Barbera. Again, same people who made that. Now, I think there's like a billion versions of Scooby-Doo, I want to say. Probably like right around that. And I have my favorites for sure. By the way, this is just a random one in case you're wondering what the exact one this is. It's called Scooby-Doo Franken Creepy, by the way. But this one as in Scooby-Doo, it's pretty much anything that you may ever like. There's probably a Scooby-Doo that relates to it. You have the 60s campy ones. You have the 80s more bombastic ones, but it was basically it led to, you guys ever heard of Satanic Panic? There was one that actually led to that with Scooby-Doo, because in the 80s there was one called The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, and what they did is they had Vincent Price. We're talking about like Vincent Price, like, legitimate Vincent Price, the probably most people know, at least modern audiences know him as the old man in Edward Scissorhands. He was also Dr. Phibes, everything like that. He was a main character in a Scooby-Doo thing called Vincent Van Ghoul, and it was a show where Scooby-Doo and Shaggy investigate real ghosts and try to capture them, these 13 scary ghosts. And so that ended up being one of the shows that they listed as being part of like Satanic Panic, like freaking out and corrupting the minds of children, which is just great. I mean, the show itself, I mean, that's not great. I mean, but the show itself, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, that's great. So I'm just letting you know. I mean, it's not really, I mean, think about it. I mean, make your own senses when you watch the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. But I'm just saying that there's different kinds of Scooby-Doo out there. There's the early 2000s Scooby-Doo where you have Simple Plan and Smash Mouth. That's really, to me, I'm going to stand on my soapbox here. Now, if you have Smash Mouth and Simple Plan in your show, I'm not going to say that's immediately high art and art house in its own way, but I'm not saying that it's not, because really, somebody, once told me that the world is going to roll me. And now that may just be something that you think that I'm philosophically putting out there, but that is a lyric to a Smash Mouth song. And I think that you really need to consider that when choosing how you live your life. Anyway, Scooby-Doo. There's also a thing I like to call hidden anime, right? So Scooby-Doo, a lot of Scooby-Doo is hidden anime, where if you guys have ever seen Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, right? The Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Curse, and Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders or Cyber Chase or something like that, where it's written by Americans, it's planned out by Americans, and then all of the animation and everything is done by Japanese artists. And so it looks really crazy and looks like anime. And Scooby-Doo is basically secret anime for a lot of it, where you're looking at it and you're like, why does this look so good? Like, why does Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island look so amazing? And it's because, as I like to call it, it's hidden anime. It's secret anime. Like, you would never think that, but if you look at the credits and everything, it's just a Japanese company animating Scooby-Doo. And it has all of that kind of stuff. Yes. Interesting. Okay. So, I always recommend Scooby-Doo, but there's a lot of garbage out there. But it's still like, you know who it is, so it's kind of like good garbage. I don't know. Let's see. One of my favorites. All right, we're really rolling here. Oh, Legend of Sleepy Hollow. You know, I was going to talk about Count Duckula here. But okay, if we're going for Disney stuff too, for these specials and stuff, I'm going to say The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. What's so crazy is how normal that is at first. Like, if you're watching the rest of that whole special, it totally seems like a weird, normal, boring Disney cartoon, and the end is like a straight horror movie. So I thought I'd mention that one here, because it's good. I mean, in fact, they based that whole movie off of that, like, last 5 seconds of that film. But it is like a great one. They play it at Halloween all the time. But seriously, that horseman is only in it for like a minute. So that I would mention that one. Going into one of my favorites. Oh, man. I miss Cameron so much. Just miss him. Let's see. Check the other camera. Is he there? No. It's still me right there. But that's okay. I hope you guys are still enjoying this. Star Wars left my main favorites recently during 2021. It became one of your favorites? Okay, so everybody's digging The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I'm telling you, man, Ichabod Crane. You know what's so weird? So that's not even a whole movie. So that whole movie is actually paired with the Mr. Toad's crazy ride. What does he say? The Wind in the Willows thing. That's only a half of a movie. And plus, I think you got Bing Crosby doing that whole, like, well, we got Ichabod Crane coming in, and this is Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He's a normal man. So, I mean, it's good, but it's just go rewatch it. You'll see what I mean. It's funny how, like, I had the biggest crush on Ichabod. My goodness. Okay. I mean, what's now? I don't know if I've ever seen it. Is the Dick Tracy show animated? I don't remember. There's a cartoon version of the Dick Tracy show? I know there's the comics, which is what they're based on, right? I'll come back to that. Put the information there if we got it. I don't remember there being an animated Dick Tracy show. I know that movie was crazy. But here's the one I want to talk about. This is the one that I always recommend to everybody, and I'm pretty sure no one ever watches it. Here we go. Count Duckula. This is by far one of my favorite, slightly underrated Halloween spooky cartoons. I shouldn't say it's got 7 seasons, so obviously people watched it when it was new. This is one of those UK cartoons or Thames. I think that's how you say it. Thames. This is one of the best cartoons I have that it fits that mood, where it's lighthearted, has like a ton of jokes about classic horror movies, about being a vampire. The whole thing is that Count Duckula, right there, he's brought back every 100 years, right? And normally they use blood to bring him back, but this time they used ketchup by accident, and so he became a vegetarian. I know this is the concept, right? What a concept. But it's true. I am making it up. But this is a spinoff of Danger Mouse. And so the thing you need to know is that, I mean, Danger Mouse is very well known, and the animation is very distinctive, let's put it. Very limited animation, but people love it. Duckula, I think, improves on it in most ways. Yeah, the animation is not great. It still looks kind of sloppy and everything, but it has a charm to it that I think is really underrated in the overall grand scheme of things. So if you really want to check something out, I recommend Count Duckula. Now, I'm going to say, before you watch an episode, some of the humor, everyone, that's the way I want to say it. Some of the things haven't aged as well in certain episodes. That's pretty much how I'll put it for the show. I think it made sense at the time, but some of the jokes are, or the designs of characters are maybe a little dated by the way that we would do it today. But I got to tell you, if you exclude those, right, it's just got everything I could ever want out of a cartoon. It's got a Vincent Price-like narrator. In fact, I think they said in Vincent Price's book that he wished that they had asked him to do it because he would have done it. But they never asked him to do it. So they just had somebody else mimic Vincent Price for all the intros. Because Vincent Price was doing all kinds of stuff like that in the 80s. He didn't seem to care at all. So I can't recommend it enough. Seriously. If you can, I wonder how you watch this, actually. I didn't think about this. I've had the DVD forever. I'm sure you got the internet. You'll figure it out. Count Duckula. By the way, most bomb theme song ever. Telling you. So good. Let's see what else we got here. I got my list here, too. Oh, you guys want some jokes? I got some jokes here. I wrote down some. I didn't know how hard this is going to be by myself live. So, what's a vampire's favorite sport? Casket ball. Casket ball. Let that one sink in. Who did Frankenstein take to the prom? His ghoul friend. That's so stupid. What? Oh, this is a goth specific one. What do you get when you're too drunk at a goth club? A Lebanon hangover. Huh? I got some of those from Reddit, by the way. Why did I guess I got more than on paper. It didn't seem like that many, but when I'm saying them one by one, it seems like a lot. Why did the police call the mummies to the man, I gotta forget it. Take mulligan. I'm doing a mulligan on that one. Obviously, these are gold, so I want to make sure you appreciate the full extent of this. Why did the mummy call it? You see what I'm dealing with here? Why did the police call in the mummies to the crime scene? Why would they call them? It's because they know how to wrap up a case. Yeah? Yeah, see? These are good. These are so dumb once I read them out loud. Why is Frankenstein's monster always laughing? Why could Frankenstein's monster always be laughing? I wonder. Well, it's because the doctor always keeps him in stitches. Oh. Yeah. I know, that's pretty good. I know. or are they? I don't know. They're definitely terrible. But don't worry, we got a whole bunch of them. You know, it's like that joke of how many gas does it take to screw in a light bulb, right? It's like at least like 5 or 6, right? Because you got like one who will change the light bulb, and you got like 5 other ones to argue about how Bauhaus did it better because they did it first. Yeah. So, yeah, one of the other shows, if we're talking about spooky shows or anything, or talking about music-related shows, there's a cartoon called Groovy Ghoulies. Actually, that's the one, if you guys were looking at the title card, that was the title card. It's like a show that has like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, like playing songs with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. What the heck is that, man? It's pretty. I mean, it's good and it's like terrible in a way. Like I think a lot of people like it, but it's like really terrible. That's what that title card is. Like if you look at the title card, yeah, people like the jokes, huh? Yeah, I like them too. I mean, so I guess I'll get more of those for next week. I'll have like a bit where I just do the monster jokes. I guess I could really vamp on those. You know what I'm saying? It's hard with the Frankenstein ones because it's a real monster of a joke. You know what I'm saying? It's well, when you do the Wolfman ones, it gets a little hairy, you know, because he's got hair on the I mean, you know, it's because it's a real transformative type thing. I'll write it down for you guys so you can see it later. I think that like the guy who created the monster is looking pretty good, Dr. Frankenfine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay. You guys are enjoying this. It's funny, I'm surprised so many people like the jokes. I thought everybody's gonna enjoy my dumb trivia about cartoons, but the jokes I gotta do those more. So I guess I'll just kind of riff on some of these other ones. If you guys remember some of the Disney cartoon stuff that was coming out in the 90s, if you guys ever seen Gargoyles, love that show. It was like another really like good Disney one. I watched all those Disney things growing up. Very television-oriented child. In case you hadn't noticed by the fact that I make a show for myself to be sitting here. Vanessa is enjoying it so far. It's probably mostly the jokes because they're so good. I'd never heard of Milton the Monster, but I have heard of Sabrina Teenage Witch. Like, I'm telling you, the problem with like a lot of those old cartoons, they really blend together. I gotta say, there is a show called Drac Pack where Dracula's son, God, what is it? Frankenstein's son and the Wolfman's son form a fighting trio, and the bad guy's voiced by Captain Hook, and Dracula's name is Mr. D in it. They actually named Dracula Mr. D. They're like, Mr. D, what do we do? By the way, people call me Mr. D in real life. So thought I'd throw that out there. Just because my first name. Not, you know what I mean. But, yeah. I think all the Disney stuff, in my opinion, I mean, it was obviously they spent like $1 billion animating those shows. So they were really good. You have like Tailspin, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck. A lot of duck-related shows. Now I'm thinking about it. What's up with the ducks, huh? What is Goofy? What is even Goofy, huh? Why is Goofy able to live in a house, right, and have own property? Why is Pluto? Why is he a dog? Like, why does he live outside? Huh? I'm getting into, like, cartoon politics here. But I'm saying, what's up with that? And by the way, in an extremely goofy movie, they go to the X Games in that. What's up with that? This episode's getting really unhinged real fast. I'm just left here to myself. You guys gonna watch me just break down on a live show? Well, continue to watch because you know what? It's gonna get crazy up in here. I think. There we go. Look at how crazy it's getting up in here. This is the wide angle. And I have a wide knowledge of strange and unusual facts and trivia. You know what? Here's a weird one. There were 2 Ghostbuster shows. There was one called The Ghostbusters that has nothing to do with the Ghostbusters, this Ghostbusters. And it's a Ghostbusters show called The Real Ghostbusters, right? And here's another weird thing. Bill Murray's character is voiced, he voices, Bill Murray voices Garfield. Well, in the Ghostbusters cartoon, Garfield voices Peter Venkman, who played Bill Murray. That's a piece of trivia. Tim Burton's Night Before Christmas. I'll do it. I'm going to do it today because I'll talk about it. Since, of course, the thing that comes to most people's mind when they think of spooky Halloween cartoons and animation is Nightmare Before Christmas, right? Now, this movie, of course, man, I should have brought it down. I didn't know I was going to be talking about, but I am. It's the time for it because it is animation. See, I love both Ghostbusters cartoons. Vanessa, everybody loves Ghostbusters cartoons, right? We got the Ghostbusters cartoon stuff going on here. So, they're great, by the way. But Night Before Christmas, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to talk. I'm going to include it here. I guess I'll include it next week, too, because if we get Cameron or Noah and it's not snowing, then we'll talk about it then as well. But I got to say, Nightmare Before Christmas. By the way, you know how it's called Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas? Tim Burton didn't direct that movie. Actually, Henry Selick directed that movie. The guy who did Coraline and James and Giant Peach. And, oh gosh, he also did Monkey Bone. But that guy actually directed Nightmare Before Christmas. So, and he's talked about how he felt like he could maybe get a little more credit for that nowadays. Felt like it would be cool if maybe he got a little more notoriety for it. Like he says, I get credit for it, but it would be nice if I got more credit for it, because everyone just thinks Tim Burton directed Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think, like, actually, Tim Burton's taking credit of stuff. River King says, whoa, King is live. That's me, apparently. But I think that, like, it is a little underrated as far as, well, for Henry Selick. I mean, obviously, Never for Christmas, it's crazy because that movie had the biggest revival of all time as far as popularity. Like, it was, obviously a success when it came out and helped really define Tim Burton's career, which is so funny because, like I said, he didn't direct it. But he did come up with the idea. The whole thing about that movie is that he was working at Disney, trying to animate these Disney movies that all the kind of, what's the word I want to say? Not so great Disney movies of the 70s and 80s, then maybe not so classically considered totally good movies of the 70s and 80s from Disney. Yeah, he worked on like The Black Cauldron, Fox and the Hound. When Disney was like almost bankrupt is when Tim Burton worked there. And he had come up with the idea for Nightmare Before Christmas. And of course, because he worked at Disney, when he came up with the idea, they owned it, right? And so when Tim Burton later became famous, he's like, hey, I'm the Beetlejuice Batman guy. I'm super director guy. I made Batman. Batman's popular. And I don't know why Tim Burton sounds like that, by the way. I don't think that's how Tim Burton... Actually, Tim Burton sounds more like, hey, I'm Tim Burton. But Tim Burton, he really defined his career on that and became like super, super major director and went on to basically make his whole career defined by Nightmare Before Christmas. But there's a whole bunch of other people that did it, right? But apparently when he left and he's asked Disney, he's like, hey, can I have that idea back? They're like, no, but we'll make it with you. So, because he had, he knew that they had it in the vault, so he wanted to pull it out and then make the movie, but needed, you can't just say, well, I made it and then just, take it for later if you were working at a company when you made it. Technically, they own it. So, it was a whole thing. But, of course, it ended up being one of the most famous Halloween things ever made. Most people's favorite level in Kingdom Hearts. Most people's, there's even its own video game. It has its own video game called Oogie's Revenge or something for PS2. Good game. I think. From what I remember playing a decade ago. But, memory is always, and especially nostalgia, it never clouds the way you think. So, oh, wait, no. I think that's exactly the opposite. I think nostalgia heavily clouds the way you think. But I think it's still good outside of that. But it is funny to say, or to know that how popular that did become. I mean, I think most people will remember, if they're of a certain age, of Hot Topic shelves just being stocked to the brim with a variety of Nightmare Before Christmas memorabilia and stuff. People are showing their love for Nightmare Before Christmas in the chat here. So, oh, by the way, you guys see that show? Okay, I'm leaving this up to everybody else. I did watch that show, Has Been Hotel. Whoa. Okay, I thought it was gonna be like one. I thought it was gonna be kind of like the other shows I was talking about here, like with the, like, oh, it's a spooky Halloween themed show. I was like, oh, it's gonna be neat, right? It was a little different than I thought it was gonna be. I'm gonna be honest. It was a little more raucous, if you could say that. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. I didn't watch all of it, but I thought I was kind of surprised at how popular that show got with the level of content warning I would assume would be associated with it. Just throwing it out there. But, oh, by the way, I do recommend, if you can watch Nightmare Before Christmas, like now, rewatch it. If you haven't seen it for like a long time, those HD transfers of it, like the Blu-rays and stuff, I'm telling you, they're so, you can like literally see the little carved in by hand models, because, you know, this is before the ability to CG and everything. Like, all those models look crazy in HD. I know sometimes they do like the theater replayings of stuff like that. I'm telling you, if that's the one movie you should go see remastered, that's the one that I really think you should. People are saying that, gosh, I can't. I need glasses. Look, I just need glasses. I need to get a bigger screen to be able to read these things. Showing love for Has Been Hotel. I don't know what Hell of a Boss is. But, oh, yeah, Vanessa's talking about, like, yeah, you know, here's the thing. Vanessa's talking about, like, why people, I think there was a backlash for Nightmare Before Christmas. I think, well, and a lot of Tim Burton stuff. I think that's kind of, I think that there was too much of it. I think for people who wanted to find something to hate, right? It's like Nickelback. Well, I mean, that's maybe a little different reason, but I think for Nightmare Before Christmas, people had, you know, because it was everywhere. I mean, they were doing they changed the Haunted Mansion to Nightmare Before Christmas. They have all these, you know, different outfits and stuff, and just unlimited amounts of merchandise. Anything you could think of would have a Nightmare Before Christmas thing. And I think that it was an oversaturation of, especially Tim Burton's style with the stripes and stuff. And I think that there was a lot of hatred towards it in a certain point in time, where he was coming out with Sweeney Todd. He was coming out with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He was doing all these things right around the same time. Corpse Bride came out. And I think that there was, like, with Hot Topic and the way stuff went for, like, that early 2000s-ish, like, emo-esque type thing, I think that there was a lot of backlash towards Tim Burton and everything that he created. Everything kind of looked like that. So I think that's why you got to where stuff is now. And it's funny how 20 years later, of course, now it's coming back, and now it's like there's 10 million more different products you can buy for it. But I think that people were a little burnt out on that kind of stuff for a little bit. And it's also a bummer, because I think it did affect, like, a lot of the type of stuff that we're talking about today, where it was like spookier, maybe a little darker type stuff. And I think it went to more of the, backlash. I don't know how to describe it. A difference. There was a difference. So, yeah, that's what I got. How long have I been on here? I don't know. I don't have a clock up here. I'm going to keep going for a little bit. Okay. All right. I've heard from my producer over there. We got some more time. So if you guys have questions for me, I'll open up the Q&A. If you guys want questions, I'm going to keep going on my tangents. But you got some questions you want to ask? This time you can do it. I should have thought about this earlier. Q&A if you got it. Try and answer it. But I'm going to keep going with some of these dumb cartoons. Here's one that everybody hates. Alvin and the Chipmunks. Now, I specifically used to watch the 80s Alvin and the Chipmunks, which is different. I mean, it's different. Okay, so here's the thing. Live action ones, nobody likes live action ones, right? Because they're such a joke. That's always the joke now, because they had a movie called The Squeakquel. You don't come back from that. Right? But there were other Alvin and the Chipmunks where they meet like the Wolfman and Frankenstein and stuff. Have I ever considered making a video about the Cramps? I have considered making a video. Yes. Well, yes. Okay, the answer is yes. I have this giant list of videos that I have wanted to make and videos that I've thought about, especially bands. I mean, here's the thing. When I first did the podcast, and these are coming out, in case you guys want to hear these later on Spotify, I do post these to my podcast feed. So there are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and stuff. So for like people who followed me for like a long time, you know that like I kind of took a break, or what's the way I'll put it? I was really not in the creating mindset for a while. I was really had like a mental block of where I was like, everything has to be perfect. Tons of stuff like that. So I kind of was getting very hung up on perfectionism and everything. Got kind of in a hole with that. So I have all these lists of stuff I want to make, but I was very much in my perfectionist mindset of not wanting to create, or it had to be this good to create it, right? And that's actually kind of what spawned the live shows we've been doing for a couple of weeks now. I think it'll be a month, right? I think this would be a month. And because I will just research and research forever and never make it, because I'm like, well, I could be doing it more. I could be doing it better. I could be doing whatever. This is kind of an addition to, I guess, to this question. But yes, I have thought about doing an episode on the Cramps because I kind of know what bands I want to do, and Cramps is right in there, right? They got like a campy spookiness to them, like great rock and roll sensibility, great style, very glam influenced, just all the kind of stuff that I like. And I think even though they're not considered like goth band, I think that there's a huge like crossover appeal. And if you ask most goth, they would probably have a song on the playlist and not even think about it. So especially when you look at bands like 45 Grave, where 45 Grave is like, if you just play a random 45 Grave song for somebody, they wouldn't even think it was goth at all. For most of them, I'm saying all of them, but most of them, right? It just sounds like a rock band, but then you know it's got the horror tinge to it and whatever. So it's like death rock. But I feel like the Cramps is, you know, well, of course it is more rockabilly and stuff. I do think that like it's a band that I would love to cover. And especially with the format we're doing now, where I'm trying to come out with a more for you guys, I think that I can probably work that in at some point a lot sooner instead of, I think last year I did 2 episodes of the podcast. So we've already doubled that, which is hilarious. But then I think in 2023 I did like none. So I want to make more episodes for everybody. That's kind of what it comes down to. I like making them. I like making them like this way. It's a lot more fun, especially when I got my co-host. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting he's not there. Me, Donnie, Dr. Sanders, and Dr. Sanders. So, Countess X says, "I hope you realize that we all enjoy whatever content you put out, perfect or not." Vanessa and myself, I'll be listening to the Misfits. Misfits also play Halloween songs. Actually, you know what? We did the Misfits. By the way, I appreciate anybody interacting on these things. It's great. I love these live shows. I'm really digging these live shows. Yeah, there may be some lulls, which we're working on. I gotta like do more on the fly. Gotta have more jokes ready for the lulls. The LU, not the lulls. You know what I mean? But I do appreciate that. That you guys enjoy what I put out. And in so much of it, I think like a lot of us, I'm getting real here. I've gotten real several times on this with several real classic Dr. Sanders rants here. But I do think that like a lot of creators, and I'm very much included in it. Meowsies also says hi. That's a hilarious name. I think that's what that says. But I do think that like a lot of creators get so hung up on so many things. And I am so that. Like I'll get hung up on I will just basically a video will be done like when I do those like super long ones, and I'll just go back and recolor correct the entire thing to be like, I'm like, well, it's like bothering me that whatever, but like doing these live shows is teaching me that like, well, I can get a lot more ideas out and this kind of stuff and still filter it in with what I already do. And like, it seems people are enjoying it, but like I was really, that's why you saw so little content come out for that time, is because I was so hung up on like, well, I haven't done one, so people are going to, want to see something better. And then people want, well, it's not going to be as good as this one. It has to be as good as this one. It has to do as good as this one. It has to, and I'm really starting to see that I think as long as I'm like being who I am, like anyway, then and I'm just kind of into what I'm doing. It seems like people seem to like it, which is weird, right? Because then you're like, well, that's kind of strange, right? But it's really not. So it's like, but your head messes with it. I know. I think probably a lot of content creators say that stuff. And I don't think it's really that big a deal. Like in the grand scheme of it, as long as people are enjoying it and you do something, yeah. So, yeah. See? Everything I said is fine. This is great. I'm liking all the stuff here. Oh, see the Bowie one. Okay. Right? Okay, here I brought this up last week when we did the Bowie one. I worked on that video for years, right? And all I had to do was sit in a room with Cameron. Oh yeah, it's still me. And just talk about what I already knew. So it's like you get weird stuff like that, which I think is kind of the more just one of those things. It's really hard to I think it's hard to describe from the other side, but I think a lot of people nowadays are creators, right? Jimi Hendrix might want to hear if you listen to I'm so blind. I'm pretty sure Jimi Hendrix was in a Voodoo. Didn't he do that song Voodoo Child? Jimi Hendrix was a crazy guy anyway. I mean, got all kinds of crazy Jimi Hendrix stuff. But yeah, that was a good question. Anyway, I know it led in from the question, do you have the Cramps on the playlist or to cover? Yeah. That one sentence led to all that. But yeah, creating is like kind of a weird thing. Like I can talk about a lot of stuff. I try to do so. If you ever meet me in real life, I'll pretty much just ramble on about like a lot of different stuff in real life, which I think that probably anyone who's met me knows that. Probably a lot of people in general. You can probably imagine. I don't think it's hard to imagine that I ramble about a lot of stuff based on whenever you guys see me talk in videos, but I kind of just do that all the time. So sort of creating stuff I think is related to that with the way that I do it. So I just need to talk into a microphone. I'll try and talk into a microphone more if I can. But yeah, I saw that Spotify. I'm doing the stuff on Spotify too. So like I said, if you missed these, I'm always going to post them to YouTube or edit, so you guys can watch them later. But then I'll also do the Spotify podcast versions, so you don't have to catch them live every week. Although if you're live, then you get to interact. So I guess it's kind of the bonus for it. And plus, I think we're getting better at it every week. If I do say so myself, it's hard because I can't watch it live. Well, I mean, I kind of do watch it live because I have a monitor here, but I don't watch it live. I am it live. Whoa, that's pretty deep. So anyway, that's my answer to that one. What else I got here? Oh, this one's kind of, by the way, here's an obscure one if you guys haven't heard of it. If you guys liked Nightmare Before Christmas, this movie is almost okay. This is Mad Monster Party. Let's see if I can. Mad Monster Party. This is done by the people who did all those like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoons or the stop motion puppet shorts in the 60s. It's a movie that's, I would swear, must be like the main inspiration for Nightmare Before Christmas, because the stop motion Halloween themed monster movie thing. I'm telling you, it's really good. It's out there. So if you the problem is, I think the biggest problem with this movie is it's kind of boring. Like the songs don't really work for it, but it's got Phyllis Diller. I guess that doesn't mean much to most people nowadays, but she's really funny. And Boris Karloff voices the guy, and they have every like classic monster in here. But the problem is like the music really dates it, and like I don't know, it very much like knockoff of the Monkees type music. But thought I'd mention that one. I throw it in there. I saw Bowie on later. It was very good. I have my own goth playlist that I kept for a long time. It's called Goths Forever. Hey. Yeah, Goths Forever. I like that. Right? I keep on... Oh, by the way, you know what's so funny? Noah, who, if you've watched the Lord's of the New Church video that Noah's on, I always think about changing the name from GothCast. I'm always like, well, I could think of a name that's better. And every time Noah's like, nah, you can't. But I mean, I can. I mean, I can think of a different name, but he's like, you've already been doing it for so long. Why don't you just keep it as GothCast? But then we call it GothCast Live, right? And then it's your Saturday Night Fright. So, oh, by the way, I'm still going to keep trying to do these on Saturday, but it's very different with the host. I mean, well, not just me. So, because I have Cameron. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I keep forgetting. He's not here. But, yeah, hopefully next week we'll get somebody else in here. But it gives me, at least doing this one, it gives me an idea of how a live show with myself is going to go here. I guess the main takeaway is get more jokes, because that kills. Okay. Well, I didn't really get to a ton of cartoons. I did talk about some of them. But I think I'm going to call it here. Hope you've enjoyed your Saturday Night Fright. Yes. And stay tuned for next week. I really hope next week I was hoping to do Tim Burton. That's what was on the slate. So Tim Burton's movies. We're going to be on slate with Cameron. But we may adjust it. I really want to continue doing the David Bowie ones. Or, David Bowie has 26 studio albums. And so I really want to continue doing those two at a time. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking I want to do. But I got to see with Cameron. But if you guys want to reach out for episodes you want to see, as always, I say the best way is to just message me on Instagram at GothCast. You'll see me. So I'll be on there. So just message me with any ideas or anything that you want to see, and I'll respond. Well. Hope you've had fun. And I sure have. This was very interesting. There was a little bit of a lull there in the middle, but I think we got through it. Jokes really saved me there. But have a good one. Have a nice night. The moon is out. It may snow tomorrow. Who knows if I'll have power and internet. But maybe you will. Make sure that you stay spooky.